He heard the trap go off and thought breakfast was served, but not like that. The morning dew clung heavily to the alien jungle's vibrant foliage as Dax Bearson stretched his muscular frame in the doorway of his makeshift shelter. His bare chest glistened with sweat in the humid air, the thick dark beard on his face already damp from the moisture. 5 years of surviving alone on this god-forsaken planet had honed his body into a weapon and his mind into steel. The familiar snap of one of his traps echoed through the dense undergrowth. A feral grin spread across his face as he grabbed his hunting knife. "Breakfast time," he muttered, his deep voice rough from disuse. But as he approached the trap site, the sound that reached his ears wasn't the typical squeal of local wildlife. It was a distinctly feminine scream, followed by words in broken universal standard. "Please, not eat me! I serve you! Yes, just no hurt!" Dax froze, his combat-trained muscles tensing as he pushed through the last few meters of dense vegetation. There, suspended in his net trap, was possibly the most striking creature he'd ever laid eyes on. A humanoid woman with violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight thrashed against the restraining ropes. Her bright purple hair, tangled in the netting, framed a face that could have been sculpted by an artist. Jade-colored eyes, literally glowing with fear, fixed on him as he emerged from the undergrowth. Her black lace corset and leather shorts left little to the imagination, though they seemed oddly out of place in the jungle setting. She looked like she'd been headed to an upscale nightclub rather than trekking through wilderness. "Please," she whimpered again, her accented voice trembling. "I be good servant. Just no eat." Dax couldn't help but chuckle, the sound rusty from lack of practice. "Lady, I'm not going to eat you." He raised his knife, noting how she flinched, and began cutting through the rope netting. "Though I am curious what brought a woman like you to my neck of the woods." The alien woman's eyes widened as she tumbled free, landing gracefully on her feet. She stared at him in disbelief, rubbing her wrists where the ropes had dug in. "You free me? Just like that?" "Just like that," Dax confirmed, sheathing his knife. "I'm Dax Bearson, by the way, former Special Forces current hermit." He gestured toward his shelter. "Would you like some actual breakfast? No human flesh on the menu, I promise." A small smile tugged at her purple lips. "I am Tierra Tassari." She hesitated, then added, "And yes, I would like breakfast very much." As they walked back to his shelter, Dax couldn't shake the feeling that his peaceful exile was about to become considerably more interesting. He had no idea just how right he was. The morning sun climbed higher as Dax prepared a simple breakfast of local fruits and smoked meat from his previous hunts. Tira sat cross-legged on a wooden stool, her jade eyes following his every movement with undisguised fascination. The intimate space of his shelter seemed to crackle with unspoken tension. "You move like Predator," she observed, her accent lending an exotic lilt to her words. "But gentle, too. Strange combination." Dax smiled, his dark beard twitching. "Special Forces training never quite leaves you, even after 5 years in exile." He handed her a plate, their fingers brushing. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through both of them. As Tira reached for the food, her sleeve rode up, revealing intricate markings on her violet skin. They seemed to shift and pulse with a life of their own. Dax leaned closer, intrigued. "Those aren't tattoos, are they?" Tira tensed, quickly pulling her sleeve down. "No, they're—" Her words cut off as her body suddenly convulsed. The violet of her skin began to ripple like waves on water. "Tira?" Dax moved to her side as she doubled over. "My stabilizer," she gasped. "Neural implant malfunctioning." Her form blurred, shifting through various alien appearances, scaled, furred, tentacled, before snapping back to her original form. "Need help." Dax caught her as she stumbled, her skin burning hot against his bare chest. The contact seemed to temporarily stabilize her, and she pressed closer, clutching at his shoulders. "How can I help?" he asked, trying to ignore the distracting sensation of her body against his. "Physical contact helps," she managed between rapid breaths. "Human bioelectric field. Acts as stabilizer." Her fingers traced the muscles of his back, sending shivers down his spine. "You're so different from any species I've encountered." Their faces were inches apart now. Dax could see flecks of gold in her jade eyes, feel the sweet warmth of her breath. Different good or different bad? Very good, she whispered, her lips brushing his as she spoke. Your species. Fascinating. So primitive, yet so... Another wave of transformation racked her body, and she pressed herself fully against him with a gasp. The markings on her skin glowed brightly, and Dax realized they formed a pattern, a map of some kind, with coordinates and the symbols he didn't recognize. But before he could study them further, Tierra's lips found his in a desperate kiss. Time seemed to stop as they explored each other, their bodies moving together with an instinctive rhythm. Her skin shifted temperature and texture under his hands, each change bringing new sensations. Their clothing found its way to the floor as passion overtook them both. Hours later, they lay tangled in his bed, Tierra's form finally stable. Her head rested on his chest. Purple hair spread across his skin like silk. The markings on her body glowed softly in the dimming light. The map, she said finally, tracing patterns on his chest. It appeared when I reached puberty. My people believe it leads to the Nexus, an artifact of immense power left by the precursors. I've spent years trying to decode it. And it led you here? Dax ran his fingers along the glowing lines on her shoulder. Yes, but I never expected... She propped herself up on an elbow, looking at him with those mesmerizing eyes. The map reacts to human bioelectric fields. All these years searching, and the key was human touch. Dax grinned. Well, I'd say we've thoroughly tested that theory. Tierra's laugh was interrupted by another slight ripple across her skin. The neural implant is still damaged. Without proper stabilization, I could lose control completely. The energy discharge could affect everything within 50 kilometers. Then I guess you're stuck with me, Dax said, pulling her close again. For purely scientific reasons, of course. Of course, she agreed with a smile that promised many more scientific experiments to come. The jungle's dawn chorus was interrupted by a high-pitched whine that made Dax's combat-trained senses snap to full alert. He untangled himself from Tierra's sleeping form, his bare feet silent on the wooden floor as he moved to the window. Multiple bogeys incoming, he muttered, spotting the metallic glint of hunter-killer drones through the canopy. Tierra, wake up. We've got company. She stirred, her violet skin shimmering in the early light. The Syndicate? She breathed, instantly alert. They must have detected my neural surge. Another ripple passed through her body, causing the map on her skin to pulse brightly. Dax was already moving, grabbing his emergency pack and the plasma rifle he'd salvaged years ago. Any chance these are friendly drones coming to help? Syndicate doesn't do friendly, Tierra said, quickly donning her corset and shorts. They're a criminal organization that's been hunting me since the map appeared. They believe the Nexus can be weaponized. The first drone burst through the foliage, its targeting laser painting the wall red. Dax's rifle spoke once, the shot precise. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks. Nice shot, Tierra purred, pressing against his back as she peered out the window. The contact sent electricity through both their bodies, and her skin rippled again. But there are more coming. How many? Standard hunting squad is 12 units. She wrapped her arms around his waist, steadying herself as another transformation wave hit. Sorry, I need the contact. The neural damage is getting worse. Dax grinned, enjoying the feel of her against him despite the danger. Not complaining, but we need to move. This hut's about to become a shooting gallery. As if on cue, multiple targeting lasers swept through the windows. Dax grabbed Tierra's hand and pulled her toward the back exit. They burst out into the jungle just as plasma fire reduced the hut to splinters. They ran through the undergrowth, Dax leading them through paths he'd spent years memorizing. The drones followed, their sensors confused by the dense canopy, but still tracking Tierra's energy signature. Wait, Tierra gasped, pulling him to a stop. Look at the ground. The jungle floor was changing, and her ancient symbols rising from the earth like ghostly holograms. They matched the patterns on Tierra's skin perfectly. The map, Dax breathed. It's activating. A strange sensation washed over him, memories flooding his mind. 5 years ago, my ship didn't crash here by accident. Something called to me, drew me to this exact spot. Tierra's eyes widened. The precursors, they must have encoded a genetic marker in certain humans, creating guardians for the map across millennia. That's why your touch affects it so strongly. A drone burst through the canopy above them. Dax fired without looking, his shot destroying it instantly. Great, I'm part of an ancient alien conspiracy, Any other surprises? Tira smiled seductively, despite the chaos around them. Many, but first, she pulled him into a passionate kiss, her body molding against his. The map on her skin blazed with light, and the symbols on the ground responded, creating a glowing path through the jungle. "The map's showing us the way," he said breathlessly. "And my neural implant. It's stabilizing. Whatever connection you have to the precursors, it's affecting their technology too." More drones appeared, forcing them apart. Dax fired rapidly, taking down 3 more. 7 down, 5 to go. "But we can't keep this up forever." "We don't have to." Tira pointed to where the glowing path led into a dark cave mouth that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. "The Nexus is calling us. Together." Dax took her hand again, feeling the energy pulse between them. "Together," he agreed. "But fair warning, if this turns out to be another trap, then breakfast will be served," she finished with a laugh, pulling him toward the cave as plasma fire rained around them. But not like you'd expect. The cave's darkness swallowed them whole as Dax and Tira fled from the pursuing drones. Their footsteps echoed strangely, the sound too metallic for natural rock. Suddenly, ancient lights flickered to life, revealing they weren't in a cave at all. "By the first stars," Tira breathed, her jade eyes wide. "It's a precursor vessel." The corridor they stood in began to hum with awakening power. Geometric patterns similar to Tira's skin markings illuminating the walls. Dax kept his rifle ready, but his attention was drawn to a holographic message that materialized before them. The message was interrupted by a familiar voice crackling through hidden speakers. "Special Forces Captain Dax Bearson, authentication code Sierra 7 Delta." Dax froze. "Colonel Richards, good to hear your voice, Captain." The colonel's voice held an edge of strain. "I wish this was a social call, but the Syndicate has the rest of Echo Team. They're using us as leverage." Tira gripped Dax's arm. "It's a trap. The Syndicate must have captured your old unit during their search for me." "Damn right it's a trap," Dax growled, then addressed the speakers. "What do they want, Colonel?" "The alien woman and whatever she's leading you to. Bring them both to the coordinates we're transmitting or Echo Team dies. You have 3 hours." The transmission cut off. Dax slammed his fist against the wall. "Those are my brothers out there, Tira. We went through hell together. And now the Syndicate will use them to get the Nexus," she said softly, her violet skin pulsing with concern. "If they acquire that power..." The ship suddenly lurched, ancient engines humming to life. Holographic controls materialized around them, responding to their presence. The vessel was awakening fully, its systems recognizing both Dax's guardian genetics and Tira's living map. "Warning," an artificial voice announced. "Multiple hostile vessels detected entering orbit. Syndicate battle fleet identified." "They're not just after us," Tira realized. "They're after this ship." Her neural implant sparked, causing her to stumble into Dax's arms. The contact sent electricity through them both, and the ship's systems pulsed in response. Dax caught her, pulling her close. Their bodies fit together perfectly, and despite the danger, desire flared between them. The ship's lights dimmed responsively, creating an intimate atmosphere. "The ship!" Tira gasped, her hands exploring his bare chest. "It's responding to our connection. The precursors must have designed it to be piloted by paired beings. One guardian, one map bearer. The stronger our bond, the stronger the ship," Dax finished, claiming her lips in a passionate kiss. The vessel's systems surged with power, responding to their intimate contact. Their passion consumed them, there in the heart of the ancient ship. Each touch, each caress seemed to awaken more systems, more power. The vessel protected their privacy, sealing off their section and maintaining perfect environmental conditions as they expressed their growing feelings physically. Later, as they lay intertwined on the surprisingly comfortable floor, the ship's AI announced, "All primary systems online. Battle capabilities at maximum efficiency." Dax traced the glowing patterns on Tira's skin. "So we have a fully armed precursor warship, a Syndicate battle fleet in orbit, and my captured team on the ground. Ideas," Tira smiled mischievously. "The Syndicate expects a trapped, desperate pair running scared. They don't know we have a warship that responds to..." She kissed him deeply, making the ship's lights flare. "To intimate contact. We could rescue Echo Team and protect the Nexus, Dax mused, returning her kiss. But we'll need a plan. The ship's weapons are beyond anything the Syndicate has, Tira said, her jade eyes gleaming. And I think I know how to use them. Remember how you thought I was breakfast this morning? Dax grinned. And now we're going to serve the Syndicate their own surprise meal? Exactly, she purred, pulling him close again, but not like they'd expect. The precursor ship's control room hummed with energy as Dax and Tira studied the holographic display showing both the Syndicate fleet in orbit and the ground forces holding Echo Team. Their bare skin gleamed with sweat from their recent ship calibration session, as Tira had playfully termed their intimate moments. The ship's AI has confirmed it can split into 2 synchronized vessels, Tira said, her violet fingers dancing through the holographic controls. One for the orbital battle, one for the ground rescue. Dax wrapped his arms around her from behind, making the ship's systems pulse brighter. But we'd have to separate. Would the ship still function at full power? The bond we've created has saturated the ship's systems, she explained, leaning back against his chest. It should maintain power for approximately 1 hour after separation. More than enough time for what I have planned. And what exactly do you have planned? Dax asked, his beard tickling her neck. Tira turned in his arms, her jade eyes sparkling with mischief. Remember your trap this morning? Sometimes the best way to catch prey is to let them think they've caught you instead. The plan came together quickly. The ship would split, with Tira taking the orbital section to confront the Syndicate fleet. She would appear to be fleeing, drawing their ships into position. Meanwhile, Dax would use the ground section's stealth capabilities to approach the Syndicate base where Echo Team was held. The neural link we've established will let us coordinate perfectly, Tira said, helping Dax into a set of precursor battle armor the ship had fabricated. Her fingers lingered on his chest. Though I must admit, I'll miss the view. Focus on the mission, beautiful, Dax grinned, pulling her close for a passionate kiss. Save that thought for the victory celebration. The ship's AI interrupted their moment. Separation sequence initiating. Please proceed to your designated sections. They held each other's gaze for a long moment. What had started as a chance encounter in a trap had become something neither of them had expected. Something worth fighting for. Be careful up there, Dax said softly. I'd hate to have to explain to the precursors how I lost their ship and their map bearer in one day. You be careful too, Tira replied, her voice husky. I have plans for that trap of yours later. They shared one final, fierce kiss before separating to their positions. The ship divided smoothly, ancient machinery working flawlessly. Dax felt the neural link snap into place. He could sense Tira's presence in his mind, their connection transcending physical distance. Through their link, he watched as Tira's section burst from the jungle canopy, immediately drawing fire from the Syndicate fleet. She piloted with incredible skill, making the ancient vessel dance through space like a leaf in the wind. Syndicate vessels pursuing, her thoughts echoed in his mind. They're completely focused on me. You're clear to proceed. Dax guided his section of the ship toward the Syndicate base, its stealth systems rendering it invisible. Through their connection, he felt Tira's exhilaration as she led the enemy fleet on a wild chase through the planet's rings. You're enjoying this too much, he thought to her, smiling as he felt her mental laugh. Can you blame me? Their finest ships can't touch this old girl. The precursors knew how to build them. Dax reached the Syndicate base, using the ship's sensors to locate Echo Team. They were held in a high-security cell block, heavily guarded. Beginning ground assault, he communicated. Time to show them why humans are the galaxy's apex predators. Show them how it's done, my magnificent beast, Tira's thoughts purred in his mind. But remember, you're not the only one who knows how to set a trap. The next few minutes were chaos. Dax used the ship's weapons to create precise distractions while he infiltrated the base. The Syndicate forces, already confused by Tira's space battle, were completely unprepared for a ground assault. Through their neural link, Dax and Tira coordinated their attacks perfectly. As she drew the fleet into the planet's magnetic pole, temporarily disrupting their systems, he freed Echo Team and led them back to the ship. Ready for the final act? Tira's thoughts came with a wave of anticipation. Just like we planned, Dax replied, securing Echo Team in the ship's hold. Let's serve them breakfast. Colonel Richard's voice cut through the victory celebrations aboard Dax's section of the ship. Captain, we've got a situation. The Syndicate planted a quantum bomb in their base. If it detonates, it'll tear apart the planet's core. Through their neural link, Dax felt Tira's immediate concern. Her section of the ship was still engaging the last of the Syndicate fleet in orbit. "How long?" Dax demanded, already moving toward the control interface. 20 minutes, Richards replied grimly. "And it's tied into their central computer. Any attempt to hack or disarm it remotely triggers immediate detonation." "Tira," Dax thought through their connection. "I need to go back." Her response came with a wave of determination. "I'm coming down. We do this together." "No," he countered, sending her mental images of the Syndicate ship still in orbit. "Keep them occupied. We can't let them escape to try this again somewhere else." Their neural link thrummed with shared emotions. Fear, determination, and something deeper that had grown between them since that morning's encounter in the trap. Dax felt Tira's reluctance to separate further, but also her understanding. "Fine," she thought back, her mental voice thick with emotion. "But you better survive this, my magnificent beast. I still haven't shown you all my tricks." The ship's AI spoke up. "Analysis complete. The quantum bomb's signature matches precursor containment technology. It appears the Syndicate attempted to weaponize an ancient power source." "Can we contain it?" Dax asked, already guiding his section of the ship back toward the base. "Affirmative. The ship's systems include emergency containment protocols. However, they require direct physical interface with the device." Dax turned to Echo Team. "Get to minimum safe distance. I'll handle this." "Like hell," Richards growled. "We're not leaving you again, Captain." "That's an order, Colonel. Besides," Dax grinned, "I've got a date later." Through their link, he felt Tira's appreciation of his confidence even as she executed a complex maneuver that destroyed 2 more Syndicate ships. Her thoughts carried a promise of pleasure to come that made his blood heat despite the danger. Dax landed near the base and sprinted inside, guided by the ship's scans. The bomb pulsed with ominous energy in the central chamber, its countdown displaying just under 10 minutes. "I'm at the device," he communicated to both Tira and the ship's AI. "Talk me through this." The AI began listing instructions while Tira maintained their neural link. Her presence in his mind a comfort as he worked. The bomb's casing opened to reveal familiar patterns, the same ones that marked Tira's skin and covered the ship's walls. The Syndicate didn't just find a precursor power source, Dax realized. They found part of the map. Which means Tira's thoughts came with sudden clarity. "It should respond to our connection, just like the ship." Dax placed his hands on the device, focusing on their bond. The patterns began to glow, resonating with the energy of their connection. Through their link, he felt Tira direct her section of the ship's power to amplify their bond. The sensation was incredible, like their most intimate moments multiplied 1,000-fold. The bomb's countdown froze, then began to reverse as the containment protocols activated. "It's working," Dax exulted, feeling Tira's joy mirror his own. "But there's something else. The map fragment, it's showing me something." Images flooded their shared consciousness. The location of the Nexus, the true purpose of the precursor technology, and their role in what was to come. It was overwhelming, magnificent, and terrifying all at once. The bomb's energy signature finally stabilized, its threat neutralized. Dax sagged against the wall, exhausted but triumphant. "My hero," Tira's thoughts came with a mix of relief and desire. "Now get back up here so we can celebrate properly." "What about the Syndicate fleet?" Her mental laugh was wicked. "Oh, I served them their breakfast already. Turns out these old precursor weapons make quite the morning surprise." Dax grinned as he headed back to his section of the ship. "Not quite what they expected when they sprung their trap, was it?" "No," Tira agreed, her thoughts warm with promise. "But then again, neither was I what you expected in your trap this morning. And look how well that turned out." The 2 sections of the precursor ship reunited in orbit, bringing Dax and Tira back together. Their reunion was passionate, their neural link amplifying every touch, every sensation. The ship's systems hummed in harmony with their connection, creating a cocoon of privacy for their intimate celebration of survival. Afterward, as they lay entwined in the ship's customized rest chamber, Colonel Richards' urgent voice came through the comm system. "Captain, we've received an emergency transmission from Earth. The Syndicate, they've launched a full-scale invasion." Dax sat up, his warrior instincts instantly alert. Through their neural link, Tierra felt his surge of protective fury for his homeworld. The ship's displays activated, showing tactical data from Earth. The situation was dire. The Syndicate had deployed their entire remaining fleet. They're not just after the Nexus anymore, Tierra realized, studying the patterns. They're trying to capture Earth's population, billions of potential genetic markers for precursor technology. Like me, Dax growled, pulling on his armor. They want to create an army of guardians they can control. Tierra's violet skin pulsed with determination as she interfaced with the ship's systems. The Nexus could stop them. The map fragment from the bomb showed its location clearly. But we can't reach both in time, Dax said, his thoughts troubled. Earth or the Nexus? We have to choose. Tierra smiled mysteriously, her jade eyes gleaming. Do we? Remember what you thought when you found me in your trap this morning? Sometimes breakfast isn't what you expect. She brought up a holographic display of the precursor ship's specifications. The quantum bomb wasn't just a weapon, it was a key. Its containment created a resonance pattern that matches the Nexus's energy signature. We can use that to create a quantum tunnel. A shortcut through space. Dax raised an eyebrow. That's possible. With our bond powering the ship, anything's possible. She pressed against him, their neural link sparking with shared excitement. We can reach the Nexus, activate it, and still make it to Earth in time to spring our own trap on the Syndicate. Echo Team volunteered to coordinate Earth's defenses, while Dax and Tierra pursued their daring plan. The precursor ship accelerated toward the coordinates revealed by the map fragment, its ancient engines pushed to maximum power by the energy of their connection. The Nexus is hidden in a quantum fold, Tierra explained as they approached. Only a bonded pair can perceive its true location. She guided Dax's hands to the ship's control interface. Feel it with me. Their minds merged through the neural link, their shared consciousness expanding beyond normal space-time. The quantum fold shimmered into view, a twisted knot in reality, hiding something vast and powerful. Ready to serve the Syndicate their final breakfast? Tierra's thoughts carried both determination and seductive promise. Dax grinned, sending back images of their first meeting in the trap. As long as it's not what they are expecting. They guided the ship into the quantum fold, their bond keeping the ancient vessel stable as reality twisted around them. The Nexus waited at the center, not a weapon or a power source, but something far more profound. It's a transformation engine, Tierra breathed, her skin patterns glowing in resonance with the massive structure. The precursors created it to elevate worthy species to the next stage of evolution. And they chose humans as potential candidates, Dax realized. That's why they encoded the Guardian genetics into our DNA. Through their neural link, they both understood what needed to be done. Their intimate bond had proven humanity's worth, not through conquest or dominance, but through connection, protection, and love. The transformation began, the Nexus responding to their combined presence. Energy coursed through the ship, through their joined bodies and minds. The quantum bomb's containment field acted as a focus, creating a cascade effect that would reach every human in the galaxy. Earth first, Dax thought, and Tierra agreed. The Nexus's power followed their will, quantum tunneling across space to their besieged homeworld. The transformation wave swept across Earth like a golden tide, humanity evolving in ways that defied conventional understanding. Through their neural link, Dax and Tierra watched as the Syndicate fleet found itself facing an awakened species. The invasion crumbled as transformed humans instinctively accessed abilities they'd never known they possessed. Now that's what I call serving breakfast, Dax grinned, pulling Tierra close. Their intimate connection hummed through the ship's systems, maintaining the quantum tunnel's stability. But their victory celebration was cut short as space itself seemed to ripple around them. Massive vessels, far more advanced than even their precursor ship, emerged from dimensional folds they couldn't begin to comprehend. The precursors, Tierra breathed, her violet skin pulsing with awe. They've returned. A voice resonated through their minds, now ancient and powerful. You have activated the Nexus Transformation Protocol without authorization. Prepare for evaluation. Dax felt Tierra's fear through their link, but also her fierce determination. They'd faced too much together to back down now. Their neural connection deepened as they embraced, drawing strength from each other. Evaluation? Dax projected his thoughts. We just saved Earth from becoming a genetic farm for the Syndicate. I'd say that proves humanity's worth. Worthiness is not determined by a single action, the voice responded. Show us how you discovered the Nexus. Show us your path. Images flooded their joined consciousness. The trap in the jungle, their first meeting, every moment that had led them here. The precursors observed in silence as their story unfolded. Fascinating, the ancient voice finally declared. You began as predator and prey, yet chose connection over consumption. You wielded our technology not through force, but through intimacy and trust. Another consciousness joined the conversation, equally vast. The Guardian genetics were meant to create warriors. Instead, they created protectors. The map bearer was meant to be a tool. Instead, she became a partner. Dax felt Tira's emotions surge through their link. Everything changed because he chose to cut me free instead of treating me like breakfast, she projected. Humanity's strength isn't in their power to destroy, but in their capacity to surprise, to choose the unexpected path. The precursor minds seemed to confer. Around them, their massive ships moved in patterns that hurt to look at, were not reconfiguring space itself. We left the Nexus as a test, they explained. Many species found it. Some tried to use it as a weapon. Others ignored it out of fear. You are the first to understand its true purpose, the elevation of consciousness through connection. Energy coursed through the quantum tunnel, and Dax and Tira found themselves transported to a vast chamber within the largest precursor vessel. Their ship came with them, its systems still harmonizing with their bond. Your physical intimacy powers our technology because it represents the ultimate form of trust and connection, the precursors continued. You have proven that humanity is ready not just for transformation, but for partnership. Through their neural link, Dax and Tira shared a moment of perfect understanding. This was bigger than either of them had imagined when they'd met in that jungle trap. Partnership? Dax asked, though he already suspected the answer. We did not merely leave. We evolved beyond physical form, but the universe needs active guardians, species who can maintain balance while continuing to grow. Humanity, guided by their capacity for unexpected connections, can fill this role. Tira's jade eyes met Dax's. And my people? We were created to bear the map, to guide the worthy to this moment. Your species will continue to evolve alongside humanity, the precursors assured them. Your union proves the potential of such partnerships. The chamber filled with swirling energy as the ancient beings prepared to depart again. We leave the Nexus in your care. Use it wisely. Guide other species toward similar enlightenment. And remember, the greatest discoveries often come when breakfast isn't what you expected it to be. Dax laughed, pulling Tira into a passionate kiss as the precursors ascended to their higher dimension. Through their neural link, they felt the responsibility and potential of their new role, but also the joy of facing it together. So, Tira purred against his lips. Ready to help guide the galaxy toward enlightenment? And as long as we can do it our way, Dax replied, his hands tracing the now permanent map patterns on her skin. After all, who better to guide others than two people who found love in a breakfast trap? The Syndicate's final desperate move came just as Dax and Tira were exploring their new role as galactic guardians. Through their neural link, they sensed a massive energy surge from the remnants of the defeated fleet. They're channeling all power to their quantum drives, Tira observed, her violet skin pulsing with concern as she studied the ship's displays. But that's suicide unless... Her jade eyes widened. They're trying to create a resonance cascade. Dax understood through their shared consciousness. The Syndicate was attempting to trigger a chain reaction that would destabilize the quantum tunnels they'd used to reach Earth, potentially destroying both the planet and the Nexus. Always trying to spoil breakfast, he growled, his hands moving to the ship's controls. Their intimate bond powered up the ancient systems instantly. Let's show them why that's a bad idea. Tira pressed against his back, her fingers intertwining with his on the interface. Remember this morning's trap? Sometimes the best way to catch prey is to let them think they've caught you instead. Dax finished, grinning as their minds merged deeper through the neural link. The ship responded to their combined will, its precursor technology singing with power. They launched toward the Syndicate's position, their vessel's capabilities enhanced by their recent evolution. The enemy ships, their quantum drives glowing with dangerous levels of energy, formed a complex geometric pattern in space. The cascade will trigger in 3 minutes, Tira calculated. Not enough time to disable each ship individually? Dax smiled, sending her mental images of their first meeting. Then let's set a trap of our own. Something unexpected for their last breakfast? Understanding flowed between them. They guided their ship into a precise position, using their bond to manipulate the quantum fields around them. The Syndicate vessels committed to their suicide gambit didn't realize they were being maneuvered. Their quantum resonance is reaching critical levels, Tira reported, her body molded against Dax's as they worked in perfect synchronization. Now, their ship pulsed with energy, creating a quantum envelope that encased the entire Syndicate fleet. The enemy's cascading reaction, instead of spreading outward to destroy Earth and the Nexus, folded in on itself. "Breakfast is served," Dax declared as the Syndicate ships imploded, their own desperate attack turned against them. The quantum envelope contained the destruction, protecting the surrounding space. In the aftermath, they celebrated their victory with passionate intimacy, their neural link amplifying every sensation. The ship's systems hummed in harmony with their pleasure, creating a cocoon of privacy around them. Later, as they lay together in the control chamber, Tira traced the evolved patterns that now marked Dax's skin, a mirror to her own living map. The precursors were right about humanity's potential, she mused. You never take the expected path. Speaking of unexpected path, Dax replied, pulling her closer. I've been thinking about that jungle planet where we met. It would make a perfect training ground for other species learning to access precursor technology. Tira's eyes sparkled with interest. A place where predator and prey can learn to become partners instead? Exactly, after all. He kissed her deeply, their neural link flaring with shared passion. Look how well it worked for us. Through their bond, they sensed another species across the galaxy, some ready to begin their own journey of transformation. As humanity's first guardians, they would guide these races toward enlightenment, not through force or dominance, but through the power of unexpected connections. You know, Tira said thoughtfully, when I fell into your trap this morning, I thought I was going to be breakfast. Dax laughed, his hands tracing the glowing patterns on her skin. Instead, you became my partner in protecting the galaxy. Definitely not what either of us expected. But perfect nonetheless, she agreed, pulling him into another passionate embrace as their ship carried them toward their next adventure. Returning to the jungle planet where their story began, Dax and Tira discovered their evolved senses revealed what had been hidden before. The entire world pulsed with precursor energy. Each trap Dax had unknowingly set perfectly aligned with ancient power nodes. You weren't just surviving here, Tira realized, her jade eyes wide with wonder. You were unconsciously activating a planetary training system. Every trap, every trail, every morning looking for breakfast, Dax chuckled, pulling her close. Their neural link hummed with shared amusement at how far they'd come since that first encounter. The jungle around them responded to their presence. Ancient technology awakening. Holographic interfaces emerged from trees. Quantum tunnels disguised as the natural caves revealed themselves. And the very air seemed to sing with possibility. Their first students arrived soon after. Representatives from the carnivora and herbivora species, ancient enemies whose conflict had nearly destroyed both their civilizations. The carnivora, proud predators with crystalline fur, regarded the herbivora's iridescent scales with barely concealed hunger. Welcome to breakfast, Dax announced with a grin, earning an elbow from Tira through their neural link. Though not quite what you might expect. The two species were initially housed at opposite ends of the jungle. But as Dax and Tira demonstrated the power of partnership through their own bond, attitudes slowly began to shift. The precursor technology responded only to cooperative efforts, forcing traditional enemies to work together. Watch them, Tira whispered one morning, as a young carnivora helped a herbivora navigate a particularly tricky energy field. They're starting to understand. Dax nuzzled her neck, sending pleasurable shivers through their link. Just like someone else I know who thought she was going to be breakfast. Their intimate moments now activated the entire planet's systems, their evolved bond harmonizing with the ancient technology in ways that left their students in awe. The jungle itself seemed to protect their privacy during these times, creating natural barriers that allowed them to express their deepening love. Months passed as more species arrived, each bringing their own prejudices and fears, each learning to overcome them through unexpected connections. The jungle planet became known throughout the galaxy as a place of transformation, where ancient enemies could become allies and perhaps more. One morning, exactly 1 year after their first meeting, Dax and Tira stood on a cliff overlooking their growing community. Below, a carnivora and herbivora pair were tentatively sharing a meal, their own neural links beginning to form. Ready for another day of teaching the galaxy that breakfast isn't always what it seems? Tira asked, her violet skin glowing with happiness. Dax pulled her into a passionate kiss, their bond flooding with shared love and desire. The jungle responded, creating a private bower around them with flowering vines and soft moss. Always, he murmured against her lips. Though I have to admit, catching you in that trap was the best breakfast I never had. Their laughter echoed through the jungle as they celebrated their anniversary, their joy rippling through the planetary systems and inspiring their students with the pure power of their connection. In the years that followed, the jungle planet became the heart of a new galactic society, where species learned to evolve not through conflict, but through understanding. Dax and Tira's story became legend, the tale of a hunter who found love instead of breakfast, and a prey who discovered strength instead of servitude. And every morning, as new students arrived at their sanctuary, Dax would greet them with the same words, "Welcome to breakfast," but not like you'd expect.